Welcome to Stellar Reflections, the space where astrology meets real life. I'm Georgina Sierra, here to explore the cycles, crossroads, and inner seasons that shape who we become. Whether you're stepping into adulthood, navigating midlife, or entering a new chapter of wisdom, you'll find insights, stories, and cosmic guidance to help you understand your path. This is a place for all people, all identities, and all phases of life. So no matter where you are on your journey, you're welcome in this space. Today, I'm delighted to welcome back astrologer Michelle Wollaston. Michelle is an evolutionary astrologer, teacher, writer, and speaker whose work explores healing, transformation, and the deeper meaning within life's challenges and transitions. In this conversation today, we're discussing everything. We're discussing themes of self-worth, value, Chiron coming up to moving into the sign of Taurus, and how astrology can help us navigate the initiatory experiences that often emerge throughout midlife and beyond. Michelle, welcome back to Stellar Reflections.
Hi, Georgina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm excited to have you back today because we had an amazing conversation first time round a few episodes ago, which is a few months ago.
It was.
And why is time going so fast? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
Oh, it's insane. One thing that, is happening, as I said, with Chiron moving into the sign of Taurus, we've had years of it in Aries, and you've been through your own Chiron return. And like myself, there's a whole bunch of us that have Chiron in Taurus go, what's this going to mean? And to be honest, with my Chiron being only 3 degrees of Taurus, I'm already feeling it, and it's just days away. I want to tap into your intuition and into your wisdom with all this. And one of the themes that you talk about is about women feeling lost in life they've built. I've been seeing that coming up. And for the Chiron in Taurus generation, many people followed like the traditional roadmap of security. So for us, it's like we need to have that extra $100 in the bank. So that's like our safety buffer, so to speak, having that security in our family, careers, and responsibilities. So once we hit midlife, things shift, things change. And they're asking, well, I've got everything I thought I wanted. So why am I not happy? Why am I still unhappy? And why is it like there's something missing, or that security is gone?
For people to be able to understand it on an individual level, I guess you would have to look at their entire chart. But I think when our Chiron hits us, and I know this happened for me, when I turned 50, it literally hit me like a brick wall. And I'm a January baby. So like it literally happened at the very beginning of my Chiron return year. And my Chiron's in Pisces. So my Chiron's in Pisces, but we were in Chiron in Aries. So thinking back now, if I look in that astrological context, it was probably when I started to say, I'm done. I don't want to do this relationship anymore. I don't want to do this way of life anymore. I don't want to do this job anymore. There was a lot of that. I don't want to do it anymore. But I think because my Chiron's in Pisces, I lent very heavily into that self-healing, classic 12th house kind of Pisces stuff. And looking back, it all makes sense. I can see, when I look at where I am now, I can see how that evolved and why it needed to happen. And of course, menopause for a lot of people kicks in as well. So you're having that not psychological. Well, yeah, there is some psychological, but you're having that physiological change that your body's speaking to you through the menopause. I don't like to use the word symptoms, but through the symptoms that come to you when you hit menopause. It's just your body talking to you and trying to make you understand that, if you can't sleep at the right times that you're used to sleeping, then you just need to adjust and sleep when your body feels like it needs to sleep. And that may not be through the night anymore. It might be 3:00 in the afternoon. And, what are those hot flushes trying to tell you? It's your body's way of releasing. So when are you having them? And what do you find triggering your body when you have them? Is it something that you ate? Is it something that you drank? Is it because you didn't sleep well? And you've start to kind of look at the context around the physiological stuff that's going on. But for those people who are Chironing in Taurus, everything is going to be safety and security. It's all going to be deep root chakra stuff. It's going to be everything going right back into those fear wounds. Why, maybe you feel like you don't want to be in your relationship anymore, but the reason why you probably are worried about leaving is that sense of home. I don't want to leave my asset. I don't want to leave my comfort zone. I've worked really hard to build this thing. And as we know, Taurians inherently aren't good at transitioning. They're not good at change. They will stay stuck with their with their hoofs in the ground as long as they can, no matter how bad that's not serving them. So I think for people who are, and it kind of starts about 49, doesn't it? So, between that 49 and 51 year, if you're starting to feel those rumbles, it's because of the Chiron starting to return back to where it was when you were born. And because it's in Taurus, you're going to feel those rumbles in all of those spaces that make you feel safe because it wants you to move. The places that you probably thought were your safe places. And I don't mean that from a harmful, I'm not defining the word safe as in you're in danger. It's the things that make you feel inherently comfortable that Chiron's now going, get your bum out. It's not serving you. You're not living. You're not experiencing because you won't move out of the safeness.
That's true. And with that safety, you have to sometimes, for want of a better word or phrase, sort of hit rock bottom, what you would consider as rock bottom. And you're like, you get there and you're like, oh, I'm still alive. I'm surviving. And actually going, right, I've stripped away all of these things. So now I'm going to build a life for myself. But it feels hard. It really feels hard to come to terms with that, doesn't it? Whatever sign you're in that part of life, it is. It is a very difficult realization to face. And I love what you said about with the menopausal, I'll put inverted commas, symptoms about sleep. I find that too. I'm not sleeping like I used to. And it's just listen to your body. If you get up at 3 a.m. at the witching hour and it's not coming back, that other sleep cycle at 4 a.m. and then the following one at 6 a.m., well, then get up and have a nap in the middle of the day if you can and listen to those symptoms. That's so wise.
The unfortunate thing, and there's a lot of conversation around this at the moment that I've been reading, in that, the world isn't built for women at this time of our life because,
No, that's right.
it's better since COVID because there's more flexibility, especially in the workplace. But we don't all have the luxury of being able to say at 3 o'clock, I'm going to lie down and have a nana nap.
Yes, that's
Because
right.
you're in an office or you've got a meeting that you have to be in. So it's around maybe recognizing what it looks like for you physiologically. And again, the Taurus thing is and it doesn't have to be, I think we always go into relationship sectors when we talk about this stuff, but it doesn't have to be. It could be that you're stuck in a career that is no longer serving you, or a job or a business. And so what is happening in that space where you're comfortable and you're safe and you've built all this stuff around you, and little Mr. Taurus loves the fact that you've got this beautiful office and all the creature comforts, but do you actually enjoy it anymore? Is the job working for you anymore? Is the business working for you anymore? Are you really just finding that another BAS statement? Oh my God, I've got to get up and go to work again this morning. Oh, if I have one more meeting with that person. They're those little universal things that are going, not working anymore, not working anymore. And we don't really want to get to the, being hit at the back of the head by a Mack truck point, which will happen to you. And it will probably happen in your body falling over. It will come out as something that is going to be a health thing that will lay you on your back when you don't listen. So, when you start to hear those rumblings, is it my job? Is it my business? It could be my relationship. It could be the house I'm living in. Maybe I just don't feel like I love living in this suburb anymore, or I don't love this house anymore, and I don't know why. Maybe I need to sell and move because maybe the next amazing opportunity is in another state but I'm not going to have that come to me while I'm sitting in this comfort zone of this state or this country. Or so when you suddenly start getting those urges that you pushed because, especially in Taurus, you're going to be sensible and you're going to be responsible and you're going to, keep everybody safe and secure. Maybe just entertain those urges and just for a moment think, well, get curious. What would happen? If I just threw everything up in the air right now and went with what I would love to do, what could happen? Okay, I might not want to sell my house that I kind of don't feel like living in anymore, but I could pack it up and rent it and go and do something and see why I feel this way. Like, you don't have to burn your bridges. You just have to think outside the box and get curious, because what will happen is when you get curious, the solutions will come for you. That's how it works.
And in that, do you think, like, people are struggling, not only with making those decisions or even understanding what they're feeling or what those signs are, but they feel that life is getting harder? And you talk about this as well. And is it because we're being asked to stop living a life of obligation and start living from authenticity? Or are we just getting older and especially for those who identify as women, the menopausal or perimenopausal brain, you're just like, I'm just too tired for this. I'm going through this transition. This is too much. There's like a lot of overwhelm. Why do you think everything can feel so difficult with that?
I always say to everybody that I speak to who asks me these sort of questions, and I've been saying it to myself probably for 10 or so years, anything that feels difficult is difficult for a reason. It's because you have to move. There is no real difficult. Difficult is a term that the human psyche has put onto things that are uncomfortable. So difficult normally means it's uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable for a reason, because it's not for you anymore. Things that are for you are not uncomfortable. The things that are filling you up and you're enjoying and are easy and are just flowing, you don't stop to think about, oh, I'm having way too much fun. I'm going to move away from that now.
That's true.
No one ever thinks like that, because they're the things that are meant for you. The things that are uncomfortable, difficult, challenging, annoying, frustrating, any of those words that kind of all mean that same thing. They're the places where you have to stop and go, it's not meant to be like this. What is it trying to tell me? What is there about this thing that I should maybe just drop and walk away from? And again, it might be something that you've built over many years. It might be something that's cost you a lot of money. It might be something that you have a lot of embedded emotion in. It could be a husband or a wife. It could be a child who you just are not gelling with, and there's just this stuff that goes on repeatedly. It can be that close, and it's happening because there's a lesson in there that you need to learn. One of you needs to step away. The friction's happening for a reason. It's for you to sit and think about why. Why is this happening? What am I not facing? And when you actually get real with yourself, you'll know. When you're not enjoying doing something anymore, there's usually an underlying reason. It's either because someone or something is irritating you. Well, then that's telling you it's time to move away from the irritation. It's not for you anymore. That's why it's appearing. It's trying to tell you what you refuse to actually sit in yourself. So the more you refuse to sit in it, the more irritating it's going to become. The energy is trying to move you. So the more you don't listen, and then you have the added stuff that when we're having these major transits like a Chiron or a Saturn or whatever it might be, the energy ramps up even more. And you would know this because you read people's charts all the time. But, when that blueprint that you've come in with, which is your natal chart, is then impacted by those transitions, the energy increases, because these are the key points in the chart where it's like, this is your it. If you don't move, we will move you.
Exactly. And like we can see it as astrologers, either in our charts or in clients' charts. But for those of us who might be listening, who might not be able to go see an astrologer, apart from listening to their intuition, how can they tell the difference in these situations where they've either outgrown something or it's something that's always not been right for them, but they're only now understanding? Is it something about, reconnecting with themselves, do you think?
It is always around having to lower the noise, because the reason why you keep pushing all of that down, whether it's an inner feeling, an inner emotion, or an external thing that's happening, that underlying fear, setting boundaries, self-worth, whatever your thing could be, it's there because it's something that you've either not seen or refused to see, not listened to. So first of all, you have to stop and acknowledge that it's happening. So say it's a job. You might have been in a job for many, many years, and you've just noticed maybe in the last 2 or 3 years, let's assume you're, approaching 50, or, you're 48, 49, or maybe you're 50, 51, and it started to happen a few years ago and it's just not getting any better, and I just hate this job. I wish I could retire. Blah, blah, blah. That's the thing. So inside you feel it because you probably don't want to get up this morning and get in the car and go to work. You don't want to dial into that meeting that's on at 12 o'clock. You don't want to have to go and deal with that person again today who you know is going to repeat the same problem. You don't want to have to put the spot fires out. The job just doesn't do it for you anymore. And then there could be real external markers that you're just not picking up. So, for example, maybe you applied for a promotion and you didn't get it. Maybe a lot of your key staff members left and you just can't pull that team back together. Maybe, you asked for a pay rise and they said no. I don't know how many of those sort of things you need to experience before you go, oh, stuff it, I'm out of here. When those sort of things start happening, when the external thing around you starts to collapse and it doesn't give you what you want, they are also the things that you need to listen to. And you might just go, oh, I got passed over. Deep down inside, you're screaming because you got passed over, probably for someone who you don't think deserved the role, or they brought somebody in from outside when you've been doing all the hard work for 10 years and basically just overrode you. Or you really do think that you deserve a pay rise because you've been on the same pay for the last 3 years and the CPI increases aren't doing it for you and they just don't give it to you. You just don't go, oh, well, you're not happy because you are justifiably probably entitled to be able to get what you're asking for. But the reason you're not getting it is because it's time for you to go. You haven't listened to the early rumblings, and now they're going to go, okay, we'll start ramping it up a bit and we're going to make it, you're not going to get what you wanted. I've had that happen in so many places. And then often what will happen is if you're staying somewhere, and we'll stay on the job line, if you're staying somewhere in a job or a business that it might be your business that is not for you anymore, don't be surprised if suddenly somebody walks in and says, oh, there's been a change in the business structure and we're making you redundant.
Oh, redundancies are blessings. Yes, it's really
Here's a
forcing you
blessing.
out.
Or
Yeah.
worst case scenario, you do something stupid and you get sacked. And you'll sit back and you'll know, I've done this. I've actually sabotaged myself to the point where I get sacked. And I know how to sit back and read it and I'll actually go, yeah, okay. I know I was taking a bit long to make that decision, so you've basically made the decision for me. But funnily enough, it always works out in my favour because usually when I've been sacked, I've walked away with at least 4 to 6 weeks worth of income owing to me. I've never been left in a position where it's been like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do the shopping tomorrow. But that will happen. Situations will then occur that will make you have to move out of that space. So I'd rather do it where I can control it than have the universe control it for me. Or you'll get ill. If you're in a situation where something is burning you out and you're not sleeping well because of it, you're not eating well because of it, it's literally making you sick, you will end up getting really sick to the point where it's like, I can't do it anymore because now I'm in a hospital bed. It will happen. And if if you're listening to this, you probably know people where you've seen it happen to other people. You just can't see it happening to yourself.
Or you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I'm starting to see that burnout, Or, and I've had this personally where I've said to myself, I feel like I'm burnt out. If that word burnout comes through your head, you're most likely on the verge of a burnout and you need to take action with that. Move the residence, move jobs, move, the situations in your life. It is so important to listen to ourselves and be authentic and listen to our intuition in that respect rather than, and this is like very counterintuitive professionally, but say you don't always have to go to an astrologer to have that validation.
Right. You just listen to what is happening internally and externally, because there will be both going on. Your internal is going to be your body and your nervous system's responses to what's happening to you externally. And if you just keep going, rinse and repeat, oh, I'll take a Panadol. Oh, okay, I'll go to work this morning even though I didn't sleep last night. Oh, I'll keep going into that environment that, okay, they didn't give me the pay rise, they didn't give me the promotion, half my team's left, the boss I love to work for has gone, but I'm just going to stay here because it's easy and it's comfortable and I'm scared, but I feel like shit and I'm not happy. Like, really? Trust me, you make the right decisions and the universe will go, hey, here's the next thing that's been waiting for you. But you had to be the one to put your foot forward. And you know what I'd say to people? If your back is bothering you, if your hips are bothering you, if your knees are bothering you, that is a sign that you need to move. They are physiological
Yes.
symptoms that you are not moving. That is how your body will play it out. You'll notice it in those joints, those lower region joints, which are always you're not moving. You need to move.
And it's not necessarily you've been sitting in your desk all day and you need to go to the gym or go to a class or something like that. It's like move in life,
That's
you
right.
know?
You
Yeah.
might go, gee, my knee, I never had bad knees, but my knees have been really bothering me the last couple of months. Think about what that correlates to in your life. And that's a sign that you've stopped moving forward. You've become stagnant. The only way that I could say to people to start thinking about the why is that you have to allow yourself time and space where it's quiet. You will never hear what you need to hear through the noise that is our lives. And for women especially, and it's not going to matter, okay? You're 49 to 51. I'm going to say chances are you are a wife or a partner or a husband, happens to men too, or a husband. You are a worker or an employer or a sole business person. You probably have 2 point something children who are probably, mid teens to 20s maybe. You've probably got 2.2 cars. You probably live in a house or rent a house. You're a very average Australian person. And with all of that comes noise. You've got aging parents who may or may not be relying on you more than what you have in the past. So you've got partner, work, children, parents, all the expectations that you put on yourself of what you think you should be doing. So it's very, very noisy. You have got to just learn to stop, make a cup of tea, go and sit somewhere quiet and listen to yourself. Think about the things that are happening for you and try to think about them as if you are a girlfriend talking to you. If you were sitting having coffee with a girlfriend and she was going, "Duh, duh, duh," what would you say to her? What advice would you give to your girlfriend? She comes and has coffee with you and she's having a moment about the useless husband and you'd say to her, kick him to the curb. If they came and said to you, you're in this horrible job and I can't believe I applied for this promotion and I didn't get it, they gave it to some new person who's been in the place for 5 minutes, your friend would go, oh, just quit. Start looking for another job. Like, don't stay there where you're not valued. What advice do you give your best friend? Because you need to do that for yourself.
Yeah, we don't listen to ourselves. And the thing with that as well, like, having kids and having parents, with that sandwich generation that I've talked a lot about, what if, yes, you are in a caring role, but what if the people that you're caring for, and this is probably mostly not young children that are very dependent on you, I'm talking about people that are older that you might be caring about. rather than them needing that additional help? What if they're codependent and it's such a hard struggle to break that cycle of codependency? You could be the only one that's caring for them, yet you are getting those signs in midlife. You are getting those signs that you need to take care of yourself. What is the best thing someone can do in that situation?
Again, I think you have to think about this in the context of the human experience you've chosen. So we're in Australia, so I'm going to talk to this in an Australian context, but it could be very different if you're in a different culture, especially if you're a woman. So there is an expectation on the women, more so if you're the first daughter, less so if you're the third daughter, because usually the third daughter is the one that gets away with murder. So if you're the first or the only daughter, and it's not necessarily even something that's been spoken about to you, but it's probably something you've seen occur. We do have an expectation that we will be the do-all and end-all for every other person or situation around us. That is what society has taught us to think is what happens. That is not what needs to happen. And believe me, in the last 10 years, 15 years, I've lived all of the experiences, and I sit back and gone, I didn't have to do that like that. And I wish I'd known then what I know now, because I wouldn't have done it that way. So, okay, you've got an aging parent. Maybe the first parent has passed over, or the parents are not together anymore. And you have a parent who, for whatever reason, now needs you to support them. Okay, that's fine. First thing I'd say is you need to remember you're the daughter, not the carer. There are professional people who know how to do caring. They get paid to do that. You are the daughter. When you take on all of that caring, and I'm not talking about going and seeing mum a couple of times a week and doing a bit of grocery shopping for her and making her dinner. I'm talking about going in and doing the heavy lifting caring. You spend every 5 minutes on the phone to her because she's on the phone to you every 5 minutes going, I can't find this, I can't do this, I can't make this work, I've just fallen over, you have to take me to the doctor. It's that heavy lifting stuff. You don't have to do that. And the reason we do it is because often we're not informed about the options we have. So you can ask a doctor, assume I don't exist. Assume my mother has no children. What things are available to her through the various systems that can support her? Can she get people to come into her home to take her shopping, to do her housework, to do community transport? I don't have to change my entire life and work and children to now take care of my mother. That's not my role. But we do it because we're martyrs, or we have people-pleasing issues, or there's all this embedded ancestral shit that has come into our DNA. We don't have to. There is no God who's going to smack you at the pearly gates and go, you were a bad daughter because you did. It doesn't. That's a human construct. So inform yourself. If doing the caring is actually making you sick, you have to stop, because then you're no good to anybody, primarily yourself. So stop and think about, what are you doing? What can you put onto someone else? If you're in a situation where you have to do so, even those little things, and then you're kind of like, oh, hubby and the kids knew I had to be out here all day doing this, and they knew that I was going to do this, and I've come home and they haven't done this and they haven't cooked tea. I'm telling you now, if you're dealing with men, regardless of whether they're 0 to 60, 50, 70, whatever, they only know what they know. If you haven't said, this is becoming really hard, I need you guys to lift your game, I'm going to need you to start doing your own washing, putting the dishwasher, they're not going to do it. That is male
No.
human nature. And then when you whinge, they're going to say, why didn't you just ask? Learn to ask. Learn to delegate the responsibility. Whether you delegate the responsibility to a government agency, a professional person, a husband, a sister, a brother, a friend of the family, learn to delegate. Do not carry it on your shoulders and then whinge because, oh, I'm so tired. Because that's what it is in reality. We all sit back and go, well, I don't know why she's doing all that. She's got 2 really healthy brothers and sisters that could be helped, because we feel like we have to do it all.
We
And are
do,
you
and no
gonna
one
be
asks
dumb enough are
us.
you gonna be dumb enough to offer? No.
No.
Is your brother or sister, if you're doing everything, gonna be dumb enough to step in and go, "Oh, I'll help"? Of course not, because you're dumb enough to do it for them. So think about it in real terms, like you are carrying what you're carrying because you're deciding to carry it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, you do decide to carry it, and as an only child myself, you feel like, yep, you've got that cultural expectation. No one asks you, and you're like, "Why is it on me?" And then the social conditioning, which I've had people, from a Greek background, you're expected. When a lot of immigrants of my parents' generation were expected, but they didn't do it. They chose not to do it. So now they're of that generation expecting us, passing that on. And you also have the cultural, you've got, like in my case, the Greek culture and the Australian culture clashing. And you're like, so what do I do? What do I do? And with what you were saying, it reminded me of what one of my aunties said to me. I called her in Greece and she said to me, I'm going to, she's in her late 70s. She said, I'm going to tell you one thing. My generation, we've lived our lives. You haven't. You are under no obligation to take care of us. You've got young kids, you've got, whatever other obligations. You take care of them first. Actually, no. You take care of yourself first, then the kids, and us, we'll fit in where we fit in. And it's you can see it across all cultures.
And it's not about loving them.
No, it's
It's
different.
about loving yourself enough that you don't fall over in the process of trying to allow them to live their life the best way they can. And sometimes living their life the best way they can is you pulling back and being the daughter and letting other things and systems step in for you because they're there. And if you don't know they're there, as I said, go and ask your parents' GP when you go with them to the doctor. Ask your GP. Make a phone call to Centrelink. Ask friends that have got people in similar situations. There is a ton of stuff out there when you know how to ask and what to ask, and take advantage of it. Because in a country like this, there is a lot of support. You don't have to take it all on yourself. But if you don't take those moments to sit down quietly and think about what's actually happening here. And a lot of it is going to be sometimes the person's expectation of what you should be doing for them is something that's been put on them by their mother, father, others. As you said, like it could be that your mother's mother put an expectation on her of what that caring looked like. And you may have observed that as a young girl. So you just automatically, through osmosis, absorb that process of this is what we are supposed to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Doesn't mean it's what you're supposed to do just because you saw it. If you watched me walk across the road and stand in the middle of a 100-kilometer freeway, would you follow me? No. So it's learning to sit back and go, why do I feel like I have to do this? Did someone ask me? Did I do it because I saw my mum? I mean, I know I did a lot of things in my relationship because I saw my mum do it for my dad. And I maybe just did it because I just thought that's what you did as a partner. But then I think, I see other women who don't do that. They didn't fall into that trap. So why am I doing it? So you just get honest with yourself. Sit down, sit in the quiet, make a cup of tea. If you're someone who meditates, then meditate and ask. If you're a walker, think about it while you're walking. It's whatever your thing is, but I don't normally say to people, we'll go and meditate because 99% of people don't meditate. But you do go and have a coffee at a cafe, or you do go and sit in your car and look at the water. So in those moments, stop. What's just going on? What's it for? Hand on heart, if I had nobody telling me what I had to do, if I could just decide what I wanted to do right now without anyone judging me, what would I do? That is your truth. That initial thought that comes into your brain, and it might be, I wish I'd never had to go back and have another conversation with my mother again because you could be estranged and now you have this thing that you feel, that is your truth. And you're allowed to go with that. And now you set things in place that allow you to put that boundary in place. Or it might be, I've got this job. I hate it. Why am I going? Because we need the second income. I need to work. Okay, so get another job. Start looking for another job. Or sit down and crunch your finances. Have a chat to your partner. What is our actual situation right now? Because you probably got that job 20 years ago when the situation was completely different. So audit your life. Sit down and actually crunch those numbers. If you're a woman in her 50s and you are no longer happy in your relationship, and I'm telling you because I've been that woman in my 50s, and the first thing that comes to your brain and the first thing that comes to many of my female friends' brains in the same situation is, but I can't leave. I've been here for 20 odd plus or more years. Where will I go? What will I do? I'm 50. I'm 60. I'd have to start again. Will I have enough money for a mortgage? They are the thoughts you have. And you need to sit down and audit your life. You don't just suddenly pack a bag and leave. You stop and you go, okay, what does it actually look like? I'm just going to go and get my superannuation statement. I'm going to go and get my partner's superannuation statement. I'm going to go and check the mortgage, and I'm going to find out how much liability and how much collateral I have in this asset. How many assets do I have? What would it actually look like if I just did what I feel I need to do? If I did it, okay, I might ring a family lawyer. You usually can get your first consultation for free, and I'm going to go and take this paperwork and I'm going to say to them, what does this look like on paper? If I was to leave, what does it look like? Because then you're making informed choices and you know exactly where you stand. And then you can start actually seeing the forest for the trees, because you're like, okay, so this is my reality. What do I need to do to change my reality? I could get a job that pays a bit more. I could take on a second job. I could start bumping my super up. I could start having some critical conversations with my partner that I have refused to ever have because I'm scared. Start having the conversations. They might turn around and go, you know what? I agree with you. I haven't been happy either. Let's just decide to call it quits with love, and let's just work out what we're going to do in an equitable, manageable way. Like, yeah, scary. But what's more scary? Sitting in that space for another 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and then on your deathbed going, oh, I wish.
I wish when I was 50, I took that step.
Yep. And your
Yeah.
children going, Mum, don't know why you stuck with it that long, or your partner going, well, I wish you'd said something because I felt the same and I didn't say it because I didn't, do things from an educated, informed position. No one's saying walk out the door of the job I quit and throw your bag in the air. No one's saying pack a bag and leave your relationship. No one's saying sell your house tomorrow. And then what we're saying is take the time to lower the noise and think about it strategically. Gather all of your information, put all of your ducks in a row, because once you can see it clearly, then it will make sense. And that's very Taurus. All of that's very Taurus.
Very Taurus. Yeah.
Very Taurus.
Because
Yeah.
like Chiron's, that wounded healer, and he only healed himself, albeit briefly, when he would heal others. And that's how we work through our Chiron wound, Like you yourself have been through so much in your Chiron return, but now you have the wisdom to impart this knowledge to the rest of us, which heals you on a soul level. And we're eternally grateful for it.
When I think back of all of and we were talking before we went live about how you're about to go into your balsamic progressed moon, and what happened in my balsamic progressed moon is no one's yeah. But I speak to so many women and women friends who are in this 50 to 65, and so many of them will say, I'm not happy. Like I had lunch with a friend the other day who had said only months ago that she'd been in this relationship. She was 16, and we were all, and she's actually a psychologist. So she works with women in these situations to work through these, transitional changes. And she was saying how it's so odd for her because she's in this, she's been with this fellow since she was 16 and she's now in her early 60s and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's amazing, because I do know people who have been in relationships with their high school sweetheart, and they're a nightmare. They should have broken up 25, 30 years ago. But
Yeah.
then there are those couples who clearly, that's the soul contract and they're still together and they're living amazing human experiences. But they're few and far between. Let's be honest.
Oh,
They are very
absolutely.
far between.
Very few.
And yet there we are, caught up again at the beginning of the week. And she's like, there's just been this whole thing happen and there's been this whole realization moment. And she's like, I'm done. And I said to her, how old are you? And I think she said, oh, I'm 61. I'm like, Chiron return. I said, what were you doing at 50? Think back to what it was like at 50. Those rumblings were happening when you were 50 and you didn't act on them. Now Saturn's coming in and smacking you across the back of the head. Now think back to what you were doing when you were 30. Were you in the marriage at 30 and were there rumblings, but you stayed there because you'd been together since you were 16? Because now it's Saturn return at 60. And, it is what it is, people. Like, there's no making stuff up. And I just keep saying to women, just stop, think about it, inform yourself. And if that means go on a cruise on your own for 10 days and sip a Mai Tai while you think about it, if that's what you've got to do, that's what you've got to do. If you want to go and walk the El Camino, do that too. Do whatever it is you have to do to hear yourself.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Michelle. This has been
You won't
amazing. Another
regret it. You won't
in-depth
regret it.
conversation. And we're going to definitely have you back next year in our next season. So looking forward to it. Thank you so much for joining me again and sharing your thoughtful insights and experience. So with our thoughtful conversation about Chiron in Taurus, there's a lot of things there about healing, worth and wisdom that can emerge throughout our life's turning points and feel particularly meaningful. I think many listeners will recognize parts of their own journey in what we've discussed today. So for those listening, you'll find Michelle's website, social links, and any current offerings in the show notes. And thank you for listening to Stellar Reflections. And until next time, take care of yourselves and of each other. Thank you for spending this time exploring the cosmos within and around us. I am grateful to share these reflections with you, and I hope they offered you a moment of insight, grounding, or reassurance. A special thank you to my producer, Jen Brown of JJ Boots Productions, for her care and support behind the scenes. Intro and outro music, Pulse Width by Tony Vodnik, licensed via Pixabay. If this episode resonated, feel free to share it with someone who may need it. You can find more of my work on my website, Instagram or Substack, where I offer astrology for every stage of life. Until next time, may your path be clear and your inner light steady.